Today we're going to be taking a look at what's inside the bag of a amateur content creator with 3 sponsors. You look like someone who likes free stuff. That's what I look like, and I like free frisbees. And that's what you're going to get if you follow my channel. 250 subscribers, free giveaway, special edition, Envy, James Conrad, gonna love it. Hope to see you guys follow. So today's video is going to be a little more laid back. We're going to be taking a look inside of my bag and then talking about my 3 sponsors for this upcoming season. I've got some fun plastic that I got from those sponsors, and then I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to share with you guys some of the benefits that are going to be happening and like maybe what the content's going to look a little bit. And yeah, let's get into it. So first out, shout out to my sponsors. I'm going to be talking about them a little bit right here. My local retail sponsor, which is Dogh House Disc Golf. Go check them out. I'll leave a link to their website in the description down below. Real recent startup here in Fargo, North Dakota, and he's a great guy. He's running a bunch of local tournaments here, so go check him out. He's got some fun plastic on there. Really solid prices too. I would absolutely check that out. Number 2, we got Hooligan discs. Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be repping Hooligan this year. I've already got some fun plastic, got the Hooligan stamps on some of my discs, and yeah, I've been making a bunch of reels on them. I'm gonna have more YouTube videos coming out soon. I've already gotten the prototype Vibe video out, and we're gonna have a couple more little things coming out. I've got the next iteration of the Vibe coming. I'm gonna do some reviews on some of their older plastics, and that might be a little harder to get right now, but it's still some good stuff. I'm loving these Yeets right now. These things are money for my arm speed. So yeah, loving that. And sponsor number 3, we got Disc Store. Thank you so much, Disc Store. Actually, I have one video coming out with them here soon that you guys are gonna really like. We're doing a 9-hole round with the Disc Store Dismember Cicada. This thing is insane. This is UV, it might be UV glow, I don't quite remember. But yeah, be on the lookout for this. Yeah, now let's get into my bag. Now my bag is a pretty simple concept. I definitely lean more on my putters and my fairway drivers, and you can see that in the quantity of those that I have. I carry a lot of putters and approach this really, and then a lot of fairway drivers and power drivers. So to start off, I carry this Simon Xout grip bag. Real simple, gorgeous looking bag. You don't get much better than that. And then starting with putters, my putting putters for this year, I believe, are going to be the Premier Discs War Pigeon. Now, what I usually use to describe this to people is like, this feels somewhat between like a Discmania Disc P3X and then the Innova Big Beat AVR. So this is gonna be kind of like a deeper PA3 in a sense. It's definitely deep and it's great for big hands, which I have very large hands. So these feel real great in my hands. I feel a lot of control within like the 33-foot range into the basket. So these definitely do really well for my putting style. I'm very chest to basket, very spinny. These stay in the air for a nice long time, which is something that I kind of had to walk away from the PA3 because of. So yeah, great putter option here. Check out Premier Discs, another local company, absolutely amazing. For my longer putter, and then sometimes maybe like some long throws, I'll go for my 300 Firm PA3. This thing has just been in my bag for a while. I threw it all last year, and it's beaten up to be a perfect, like you throw it flat and it just glides right the entire time out. It's not gonna be as much of a throwing putter this year because I'm gonna be jump putting with it or step putting, just because I feel more comfortable with it right now. I might work this out and then just jump putt with the War Pigeons once I get more practicing with it. I've only been using them for about 2 months, but yeah, another great option. Now my understable throwing putter is the Prodigy Disc PA5. You might be noticing a little bit of a Prodigy kick with these putters. I really fell in love with their putting lineup last year. They probably have the most solid putting lineup aside from maybe MVP or even equal with MVP right now. But yeah, KL signed PA5. This thing is the perfect kind of backhand or forehand replacement for a backhand player. You can put it out there, throw it about 50%, and it's just gonna coast to the right the entire way. If you throw it full power, it's gonna act like it's like dumping on a hyzer. So, well, for a forehand. So this thing is a fantastic option. I bag it as a utility disc and I love it for that reason. So my light just turned off. Is this still look okay? Yeah, it looks fine. Now, one disc that might bounce in and out of the bag just because I love the flight, but I have another cool disc that I'll mention here in a second that might take its place, is the all-new Simon Line Pixel. This thing, I tried for putting a little bit, but I couldn't get past the no bead part. I mean, like, I really grew onto a bead this last year, so I'm gonna go ahead and avoid this for now. But for a throwing putter, this thing is butter and cheese. I throw this flat and then it just either coasts to the right or it stays completely flat the entire flight. One example of this is I was playing one of our local courses, Detroit Lakes. It's about an hour drive, but I consider it local. Hole 1 is like a 280 foot, just like over a hill and then glides straight flat down. I threw this flat and it just coasts, and I mean, I probably ace-ran the basket 4 times. This thing is amazing. It's like a glitch in a putter form, which is probably why Simon made it. Amazing. Now the disc that I could be replacing it with, that I haven't had a chance to throw yet, but is really cool, is this Beth 3-time AVR, but also it has this bottom 4-time stamp. So this thing is sick. It feels very similar in the hand, so it could fly very similar to that Pixel. I haven't really decided if I'm gonna put this in the bag yet, but it's way cooler, so it might go in the bag solely for that reason, as long as it flies similarly. That's the only kind of restriction. Now getting to my approach discs, I bagged 2 primary approach discs, 2 very different reasons. So to start off, we have the Prodigy Disc A5. Now first of all, this puddle top on this bad boy is absolutely insane. You can eat a cereal out of the top and the bottom of this thing. I also haven't taken the sticker off yet, but this thing does not fly like an A5. I throw this hard and it'll fly straight, even turn a little bit, but the highlight of it is that it flies like a bird in the sense that as soon as it starts to dump, it's straight to the ground. So that thing is amazing. I found that maybe 2 weeks ago in the used bin. I actually had to refilm this video because I found so many recent discs in the used bin that are like just so amazing. So yeah, shout out to that. Next disc is the Prodigy A2. Now this really kicked the zone out of the bag for me just because I liked how overstable it was and I like throwing Anheuser flexes with the forehands. This is not really a big backhand disc for me, although I will throw it on occasion. This one I can just release on even that much Anheuser and I know it's gonna come back and fight out. I can just hammer on it and I've never had a concern about it like holding the turn or like not coming out. So yeah, A2, if you ever watched Nate Turner, you know about the A2, great disc. Now getting into the mid-ranges, I feel like the mid-ranges, you can kind of cover every shot you need with a lot fewer discs than you need for some other slots in the bag. So to start off, we got the Hooligan Disc Flip. Now, this is one of the most ultimate utility discs. This is basically a glorified Rolo. It's so fun to throw, and I mean, it's absolute utility disc, without a doubt. I can throw this thing flat 30% and it's gonna turn out of its flight. I can throw this, I can just full power this thing and it's gonna get to straight vertical by the time it hits the ground. Super fun disc. I bag it because it's fun. It's not as practical, but it's gonna be really fun. And I can do fun little like 100-foot flicks where I just flick it out there flat and then it's just gonna hold straight the entire way. But yeah, Hooligan Flip. Next in the stable category, I have the Discmania MD1, or otherwise known as the Mind Bender. This is the best run of MD1 that's ever come out, which is a real shame because Simon went and ditched on me for Discmania. So we won't see any more of these coming out, which is a real shame. But yeah, I have plenty of these. These will not be leaving my bag anytime soon. This is the perfect flip up to Anheuser riding mid-range. Nothing more you can say about that. This is probably top 3 favorite discs in the bag. Next up, we got a MD3 from Discmania. I'm a big mid-range and driver Discmania guy. Actually, I do have quite a few fairways from Discmania as well. But MD3 is almost irreplaceable. The bag will probably be bouncing between this and a Hex throughout the year, just because those are like the 2 go-to go-to mid-ranges for me. So this one is just throw it hard, throw it straight. It's gonna hold straight the entire flight and then have a finish at the end. I used to bag the run that was a little more stable than this, that had the 5503 flight numbers, but I kind of liked being able to manipulate this a little more and release it flat to Anheuser and get it to just coast right. So this is great. It could be swapped out with the Hex later in the year depending on how the weather acts, so we'll see. Next up, another recent addition to the bag that I've been absolutely loving is the Birdie Disc Ultra. Now, this is kind of like your Quake-like disc where it's definitely an overstable mid-range or like a Buzz OS, but this one I really enjoy because it has an extremely shallow profile and nice and flat on the top. So what I can do with this is I can throw it super flat, and I can throw it on a forehand or backhand, and I know that it's not going to fight out until the last 50 feet of the flight. The flight number is 5303, which is really funny because this actually has quite a lot of glide, I feel like, for how I throw it. I can standstill this on a lot of like chip forehand shots and get it to go 250, 300 feet, and it just rides straight the entire way. I can put it on anhyzer and know it's gonna come out at the very, very end. This is a freaking amazing disc. I would recommend the Ultra to anyone. It's amazing. Last up, my most oversold mid-range, I've got the Axium Pyro. Now, I originally bought this when Simon first went to MVP last year. Just like, hey, let's try him out. Cool. I ended up putting this in the bag the second I touched it because it just flies so perfect. It's like a slightly less stable Justice. It's a practical Justice. It's a usable Justice. I will say I didn't love that it's kind of booger green. Oh well. I've gotten really used to this disc. This thing is a perfect forehand flex disc. I can trust it on a hyzer if I ever need like a skip shot with the backhand. Yeah, Prism Pyro, Prism Proton Pyro, plastic disc. Try it out. Getting into the fairways, I have just a couple. Some of these go by real quick just because they're really just not like super practical discs. First off, we got a DLine FD. This one I'll throw grenades with, and I can do like the throw it vertical and then they'll pan out and glide to the right. That's just a fun disc. This one weighs 146, so this is absolutely just a fun disc. Next up, we got a S-Line FD, one of the old Innova ones. If you like my little stamp there, leave a comment down below of your rating on my stamp. Yeah, it's your standard FD. This thing is just a nice point and shoot straight fairway. If I really rip on it, I'll get it to turn and just hold the turn. This acts as my understable fairway driver. So yeah, that's FD. How to do a battery swap. All right, moving on from there, we got the Skywalker FD1 Casey White Tour Series. This thing is shmoney. So I originally last year was throwing the C-Line FD1 around a lot, and that was kind of closer to my FD3 kind of shots. I was throwing it on forehand exactly how I'd throw an FD3. Backhand, I could get it to flip up and just ride a little more, but again, it just kind of was a little too close to an FD3 for my liking. So this S-Line FD1, the Halo or Orbit as they call it, this thing is a lot straighter and it'll hold the straightness for a lot longer. I can work this on an anhyzer a lot better, and it won't fight out quite as much as the end, but it has an insane amount of torque resistance. I can really just yank this out there and I can get it to do what I want to when I really just hammer on it. So yeah, this is my go-to kind of just, I need something straight with a little soft finish at the end. Next up, I got a water disc. This is a fly dye Eagle. This thing is strictly in the bag, so if I want to throw some over the water and I don't want to lose a disc, I got this bad guy. So yeah, real simple there. Nothing more to talk about. Next up on stability, I have the CD1. This is the Crush Boy series from the mystery box last year, not this last winter, but the year before. This thing is kind of just an all-around, it's basically an Undertaker. It's essentially the exact same disc. Just throw it and flip it up on a hyzer. Otherwise, I'll throw a forehand with this a lot and I'll just get like some control distance out of it. There's a 400-foot downhill shot that I throw at a local course here that I'll throw this on a hyzer on a forehand, and I'll usually just use it to just stand up and ride the entire way, maybe a little bit of the coast to the left. But yeah, great disc. Very similar to your Undertakers, your Savants, your what's the CD1 equivalent to Infinite? The Dynasty. There we go. The Dynasty is essentially the same disc. Next up, we got a 3-time Paul McBeth Thunderbird. This thing is a used disc find that I found about 2 weeks ago. One of the biggest reasons why I remade this video. This thing is beat in to absolute perfection. I can hammer on this and get it to ride, and it just turns just a little bit to the right. Kind of more like it has like a 0.05 turn to it, but it's gonna go absolutely as far as my distance drivers. This thing is just throw it, and then it's essentially just like a straighter power driver. It's like a PD but straight. amazing. I love the old beat-in Innova discs. That's primarily why I have it in the bag. I wouldn't bag a new Thunderbird quite as much. The old ones just are beat to perfection. I really encourage people to get used discs for this reason, because beat-in overstable discs just fly better. So yeah, Thunderbird. Next up, I got a Watermelon Xout Glow FD3. This one, I have quite a few FD3s. I have the new ones, I have the old ones. This one I just like because I can throw it out there and I know it's gonna start dumping hard about 250, 350 into the flight. 350 into the flight. This one is just pretty. It's really unique and I love to throw it for that reason. A lot of my discs are that way. So yeah, FD3, it's a Firebird. It's essentially the same thing. You can bag them interchangeably. I just like this one. Next up, we got the OG Captain's Raptor. Now, I've tried bagging the second and third run of Captain's Raptors, including the Jawbreaker one that just came out, which surprisingly, I think the Jawbreaker one that I got is somehow more overstable than this one. And I thought this was the most overstable run of Captain's Raptor that has been made. So this one I bagged because it's the most overstable run that I have like thrown and I feel like is most controllable for my arm speed. Backhand, not too used for that. Forehand, this is much more of a tool that I will utilize. I usually throw a lot more flex shots, as you might think. Spike hyzers on occasion. I usually go to my PD more for spike hyzers on a backhand than this, just because I like to be able to have a little more control. But yeah. Last up for the power drivers and the fairway drivers, I got my Nordic Phenom 2. Now, not long ago, I was just bagging one of the first editions of these Nordic Phenoms. It was a pink one. Actually, I was bagging this one, but it started beating up to being flippier than that Thunderbird, and I wasn't really loving that. I mean, it's a great disc, and I love it for that reason, but it just wasn't fitting my arm speed at the time, so I took it out, replaced it with this one. This one I can throw flat to anhyzer, and I know it's gonna come back and fight, so this one's made it in the bag. It's gonna stay in the bag for a little while now. Yeah, it's a pretty standard PD. I think this is probably the best run of PD, this and the Nordic Phenom ones, that they have released since the old PDs were discontinued when Discmania left Innova. So these ones are really solid. I would definitely recommend trying a Nordic Phenom or Nordic Phenom 2. This is the best run that you can get. And last up, we got the distance drivers. Now, got 6 distance drivers in the bag. Realistically, probably only need 5 of these, but I like all of these and I bag them for different reasons. So we'll get into that. First off, we've got the Prototype Vibe from Hooligan Discs. Now, I'll probably be replacing this one once I get a different color, just because I have had a terrible time losing this disc, and like, that's all right. But I'd like to keep the first one that I ever got kind of as a memento. So yeah, super flippy. My arm speed, I have a hard time keeping this in the air. It's really nice and understable, so it'll be a great roller disc. It'll be a great big anhyzer disc. I have to throw on about that much hyzer to get it to flip and ride flat, which isn't always a bad thing, but it is tough to work with sometimes. So really working this into the bag. When I get one of the newer colored ones, I'll get onto some field work with it. I'm sure I'll really dial it in then, but yeah, until then, Proto Vibe. Next up, this has been my bag for 2 years now, I think, is the first run of the Christan Halo Graces. Now, this is, I would say, the most stable run of the Halo Graces that I've thrown, and for that reason, I have loved it so much. This has been thrown with my arm ever since I first got it, and this is probably the disc been in my bag the longest, like I just said. I know this disc extremely well. I can hyzer flip it and get it to carry 480 pretty consistently. Definitely a go-to bomber disc. Not always gonna be bomber, but it might be more control. Or like if I can't quite get as much in my steps, I'll go to this, and I just know I can rip on it, and I'm gonna trust it. So yeah, the Grace. I would recommend throwing one of these either way. It's great for forehand and backhand. It also has a smaller rim, more like the Wraith, so a lot of people are going to be a lot more comfortable with this style of disc. I consider this like my distance power disc, so there you have it. Next up, we have the Birdie Disc Reach, the Broderick Thompson edition. Now, this disc I originally bagged because I loved how stable it was. It's hit a couple trees since I started bagging it, so it's lost a little bit of stability, but I've gotten to the point to where I can pop it on just a little bit of hyzer out of the hand, and it's gonna flip up right a little bit to the right and then dump pretty hard at the end. Pretty sweet. It's got a nice low profile, and I also love that the flight plate is really gummy while the wing is really firm. So this disc has been really fun to throw. I don't throw quite as much forehand just because I have other discs that I like to throw more forehand, but when it comes to backhand, this is easy distance with a good fade. So yeah, the reach. All right, next up is my Hooligan Disc Yeet. Now, this has been absolutely money for my arm speed. It's overstable enough to where I can hammer on this about full power, and I can get a good solid turn out of it, but I know it's always gonna come back and dump hard. It's gonna be really forward pushing, and I love the rim feel and the rim width. It feels to me like a Dmania Cloudbreaker, which is what I was throwing before I got this Yeet in my hands. I also got the fun little Hooligan stamps on it. Love that so much. This beautiful pinkish magenta color. This thing is going to be in my bag for a while. I can't wait to break this in a little more and get it to be a bomber. Yeah, love this. Next up, I've got my Discmania Sky Rider PD2. Now, this is my lesser stable of 2 PD2s that I have. I also have the Sky Stone PD2 that was recently released in the mystery box. This one is much straighter. It's gonna be much more pushing hyzer. This one I'll put out flat to a titch of anhyzer, and I can know that I'm gonna get a good 400 to 420 hyzer shot with a big skip at the end. I like to throw this in like an uphill hole if I'm looking to like get hard left and keep the momentum going. I really enjoy the shallow profile. I love to throw big anhyzer flexes with this disc. It's just fantastic, and with how it's broken in, it really holds it a lot harder than a fresh PD2 would. So this flies a little closer to like a faster DD3, which is kind of why I like it, and it feels a little bit bigger in the hands. So yeah, fantastic. I know these are discontinued, but this is definitely one of the best runs you can get. I want to break in this other PD2 I have to like see if it's going to be very comparable. But again, flat profile, nice and beat in. This plastic is so good. And talk about the Sky Stone, this is my most overstable disc in the bag. This one I'll throw flat and I'll want to start hyzering out of my hand, like within the first 300 feet of the flight. I'll throw big anhyzer flexes with this. If I need skip shots or like big forehand skip shots, this is where I'll go to. I usually use this a lot in the wind as well. This disc has been fighting with a Halo Destroyer a little bit. I'm bagging this because it's a little bit cooler too, and because I just like the feel of this swirly S-line plastic that Discmania has come out with recently. So I think this will probably stay in the bag. I've been really enjoying it. But yeah, this one might be swapped out. We don't know yet. Okay, anyway, that was my in the bag. Of course, there's gonna be room for it to fluctuate a little bit throughout the year. I've got a couple frisbees to try out if I really want to try something different. But yeah, check along my journey throughout the rest of the year. I'm gonna hopefully be posting frequent videos, and be sure to check out the giveaway. Trying to get to 500 subscribers right now. So yeah, if you like the video, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. See you later, my fluffy friends.